Once you cross the threshold into your 8th decade, something curious happens, not just to your body, but to how the world seems to move around you. It slows down in strange places, speeds up in others. Doors that were always open begin to creak. Names you once said effortlessly now pause on your lips. But make no mistake, this isn't a video about decline. It's about clarity. Because turning 80 isn't the end of the road. It's a powerful, often misunderstood chapter filled with insight, perspective, and yes, a few uncomfortable truths. In this video, we're diving deep into 5 things that happen when you turn 80, not because you're doomed to frailty, but because you've lived enough to finally see things others don't. And if you stay with me until the end, I'll share one insight that could completely shift how you or someone you love approaches these later years. Let's begin with the one change no one escapes, but few prepare for: the quiet unraveling of physical strength and stamina. It doesn't matter if you were once a marathon runner or a mountain climber. The truth is that your body has been keeping a silent ledger for decades. The wear, the tear, the tiny cellular debts, it all comes due. But this debt isn't punishment. It's a reminder. Muscles that once carried groceries up 3 flights now request permission for a single stare. Joints that powered weekend hikes now prefer gentle strolls. And while this shift might feel like betrayal, it's really an invitation to slow down, to listen, to move differently. Take Robert, who spent his younger years building homes in rural Georgia. At 82, he still walks his property line every morning, cane in hand. Not because he must, but because he chooses to move, even slowly. That choice is everything. We often frame aging as a war against time, pills, surgeries, resistance. But what if it's more like a long conversation between your past self and your present body? The truth is, physical decline at 80 is natural, but how you respond is not. Light resistance training, regular walking, stretching, these aren't just hobbies. They're lifelines. Think of them as gentle reminders to your muscles that they're still loved, still useful. And don't underestimate the power of protein, hydration, and key vitamins like D and B12. They're not just for the health-conscious influencer crowd. They're survival tools for the senior who still wants to garden, to dance, or to kneel beside a grandchild. We have to stop treating aging bodies as broken ones. They're evolving, yes, slower, more fragile, but often more honest. There's no shame in adapting. There's only wisdom in listening. And if you've been feeling that daily tasks are more draining, that stairs steal your breath or sleep no longer restores you like it did, that's not failure. That's the body saying, pace yourself, take breaks, honor the miles you've walked to get here. Because this isn't about giving up strength. It's about using the strength you do have in smarter, more respectful ways. 2. Cognitive processing slows down. Mental processing speed and memory decline. Tasks take longer and names, details may be harder to recall. Evelyn, an artist, notices delays but continues to engage meaningfully in hobbies. This slowdown is normal and not a sign of dementia. Brain health can be supported through puzzles, learning, socializing, physical activity, and a healthy lifestyle. When people talk about getting older, they often mention slowing down like it's a glitch in the system, something to fear or fix. But when your mind begins to change at 80, it's not that you're losing sharpness, it's that you're adjusting your depth of field. Think of it like switching camera lenses. When you were younger, everything moved fast, everything was urgent. Now your lens zooms in on what matters. You may not be able to rattle off names in an instant or remember where you left your reading glasses, but you'll recall the look in your sister's eyes the day she forgave you. The sound of your late husband's laugh echoing through the hallway. This is not senility. This is the seasoning of the mind. Processing slows, not because you're fading, but because your brain is prioritizing meaning over multitasking. Evelyn, a retired painter from New Mexico, often pauses mid-sentence, not because she's lost the thread, but because she's savoring it. She says, "I used to finish people's sentences. Now I wait to see how they finish them themselves." That's the kind of wisdom that only shows up when you've been alive long enough to know rushing ruins everything. So yes, your brain changes. Neural connections aren't what they used to be. Multitasking may turn into single tasking. Learning something new might take longer, but don't confuse slower with lesser. In fact, research shows that while working memory and speed may dip, long-term memory, emotional regulation, and accumulated knowledge can actually deepen. And it's in that depth that a quiet kind of power lives. Many 80-year-olds develop a keener instinct for people, a better nose for truth, and an uncanny ability to cut through nonsense. Call it emotional intuition. Call it earned perspective. Whatever name you choose, it deserves respect. What matters now is creating mental environments that support, not stress, the aging brain. This means don't pressure yourself to keep up with a digital world that never sleeps. Instead, spend time with puzzles that bring you joy. Read novels that stretch your imagination. Write letters. Tell stories. Take long walks without earbuds. Let silence speak. One of the worst things we do to older adults is mistake thoughtful pacing for mental failure. Evelyn once told me, "When my granddaughter rolls her eyes because I pause, I don't get mad. I just remember when I used to roll my eyes at my mother. Now I pause on purpose. That's not forgetfulness. That's freedom." And if your children or your coworkers or even your doctors act like your mind is an old machine that needs replacing, remind them, no new app can replicate the memory of a life fully lived. The trick isn't to fear the mental shifts, but to adapt the landscape around them. Keep learning, keep talking, keep laughing. Your brain isn't broken. It's becoming something new, something seasoned, something sacred. 3. Social circles become smaller. Many seniors experience a natural contraction of social networks due to death, relocation, or health issues. Margaret, once socially active, now values a few deep connections over many superficial ones. Smaller circles can increase emotional intimacy, though they may also bring grief over lost relationships. Technology, community groups, and supportive caregivers can help seniors stay engaged and avoid loneliness. By the time you turn 80, the room grows quieter, not just because of fading senses, but because the crowd thins. And while at first this feels like a loss, like the gradual erosion of your social life, it is, more often than not, the beginning of something more intimate. Fewer voices, yes, but clearer ones, stronger ones. The truth is, relationships are like fires. They burn hot in your youth, they flicker in midlife, and by 80, only the warmest embers remain. But oh, how those embers glow. Margaret is 84, once the host of dinner parties that overflowed with laughter and clinking glasses. She now prefers tea with two dear friends on her back porch. "I used to spend my energy making sure everyone had a good time," she says. "Now, I just want to be with people who let me be quiet." That quiet is not loneliness, it's depth. In our culture, we're conditioned to equate popularity with worth. We chase likes, followers, party invites. But when you're 80, you've seen behind the curtain. You've held hands at hospital bedsides, attended more funerals than weddings, and watched friends become memories. So you stop performing. You start choosing. And the people who remain those who walk slowly with you, who remember your favorite mug, who still laugh at your oldest jokes. They become your constellation. Smaller, yes, but brighter. There's also a physical component to this shift. It takes more energy to socialize. Long car rides, crowded restaurants, loud rooms, they don't hold the same appeal. And so, naturally, the circle tightens. But here's the thing, what emerges in its place is often more meaningful than what came before. One-on-one conversations, unspoken understanding, sitting side by side, saying nothing but feeling everything. The mistake people make is thinking that a smaller social circle means someone is isolated. But isolation is the absence of connection, not the absence of company. Margaret, who chats weekly with her childhood friend via Zoom, and volunteers once a month at her church's quilting circle, is far from isolated. Her world may be smaller, but it is no less alive. And let's not forget, many people who turn 80 are still building new connections. A widower finds a walking partner at the park. A grandmother bonds with her teenage granddaughter over old records. A man reconnects with a war buddy he hadn't spoken to in 50 years. These are not accidents. They are reminders that connection adapts, it doesn't vanish. That said, grief does walk alongside this process. Losing friends, saying goodbye to companions you thought would be with you forever, that never stops hurting. It shouldn't. Those tears are proof that the love was real. But even amid loss, there's space for new bonds to form, not despite age, but because of it. Because by 80, you finally know what makes someone worth keeping. And that knowledge is a gift. So if you're watching this and noticing your circle shrinking, don't panic. Lean in. See who remains. Make those relationships the ones you tend to like a garden. Call the people who make you feel like yourself. And let go of the ones who don't. Because this is not the season of networking. This is the season of nurturing. Smaller circle. Deeper roots. 4. Sensory abilities diminish. Aging affects hearing, vision, taste, and smell, impacting communication, safety, and enjoyment. Harold, 83, struggles with background noise, fine print, and flavor perception. Common issues include high pitch, hearing loss, low light vision problems, and dulled taste buds. Adaptation via assistive devices, regular checkups, and lifestyle tweaks can help maintain quality of life. When you reach your 80s, the world doesn't necessarily stop speaking to you, but it begins to whisper. The voices grow softer, the colors a little less vibrant, and the music of daily life lowers its volume. But if you lean in close, you'll find that what you lose in clarity, you often gain in consciousness. Because diminished senses don't just close doors, they open others. Let's begin with sound. Harold, 83, spent most of his life working with his hands, carving wooden staircases and crafting quiet beauty out of planks. These days, he finds himself struggling to hear the difference between a question and a comment, especially when conversations overlap. Crowded rooms have become stressful. His grandchildren's voices blur into background noise. But here's what Harold did. Instead of retreating, he adapted. He got fitted for hearing aids, not to cling to the past, but to stay connected in the present. Now, he sits closer in church. He reads lips instinctively. He lets silence fill in the blanks when the sentence isn't perfect. And here's the Miracle, he says he's never listened more closely in his life. That's the paradox. Losing sharpness often teaches you to listen with your heart, not just your ears. The same is true for vision. At 80, the eyes tire faster. Reading menus in dim lighting becomes a challenge. Faces blur in twilight. The red of roses softens. But those who adapt like Harold, who installed soft lighting in his home and carries a magnifier in his wallet, often describe seeing not less, but more. More nuance, more shape, more story. They speak of noticing how light pools differently on their windowsill, how shadows shift across the garden in late afternoon. It's not that the world disappears. It's that you start looking through it, not just at it. Then there's taste and smell, often the most quietly mourned of losses. The flavor of a beloved stew isn't quite as rich. The scent of a grandchild's shampoo fades too quickly. Food that once brought joy now feels mechanical. Some seniors compensate with extra salt or sugar, but many find new strategies, using fresh herbs, eating mindfully, choosing texture when flavor falters. More importantly, they begin to reflect on the meals that meant something, the cornbread recipe from their mother, the soup they made when their partner was sick, the simple toast eaten on a quiet morning after loss. Taste might diminish, but the memory of taste deepens. And in that memory, nourishment still lives. Sensory decline is not failure, it's a shift in how the world is interpreted. Yes, there are tools to help: hearing aids, glasses, large print, books, closed captions. But there is also a new kind of presence that emerges. The slowing of the senses invites us to notice what we've long ignored. The way a spoon feels in your hand. The warmth of socks pulled from the dryer. The rhythm of a loved one's breath as they nap beside you. That kind of noticing, it's a superpower. So instead of resisting these changes with bitterness, meet them with curiosity. Let the dimming become a form of softening. Let the silence reveal what the noise once covered up. And when someone younger says, "Didn't you hear me?" or "Didn't you see that?" don't apologize, smile. You're listening in a different key now. And what you hear may matter more than what they shouted. The world hasn't left you behind. It's simply offering you a new invitation to experience it more intimately, more slowly, and perhaps more completely. 5. Greater focus on meaning and reflection. Many seniors experience a profound shift toward gratitude, peace, and deeper reflection. Robert, 82, values quiet mornings, meaningful conversations, and no longer chases external success. Reflecting on the past, focusing on legacy, and embracing simplicity become central. Journaling, meditation, and storytelling help promote mental health and resilience. By the time you turn 80, something settles in your chest, not a weight, but a stillness. It's the sense that you've climbed enough hills, answered enough phones, attended enough meetings, and that finally there is space. Space to breathe, to wonder, to look back not with regret, but with reverence. This is the shift no one talks about at dinner parties or in health pamphlets. The transformation from chasing time to making peace with it. Robert, a soft-spoken former teacher from Ohio, wakes each morning with no urgency. He sips coffee slowly. Not because he's tired, but because he chooses slowness. He told me, "For the first time in my life, I'm not rushing to become anyone else. I'm just trying to understand who I've already been." That's the wisdom of 80. It's not the sharpest memory or the strongest muscles. It's the clarity that comes from being far enough along to finally see the shape of your life. It's sitting with your mistakes and realizing they didn't define you. It's remembering the laughter of people long gone and realizing they still visit you in dreams. It's asking yourself questions that once scared you. Did I love well? Did I forgive? Did I ever pause long enough to feel the sunset on my skin? This kind of reflection isn't self-indulgent. It's sacred. It's legacy work. And it often leads to a new kind of courage, the courage to speak plainly, to say, I love you without caution, to apologize without condition, to let go of resentment because truly there's no more time to waste. Many people at this stage begin journaling. Others pray. Some garden in silence, finding in the soil a metaphor for everything they've lost and everything they've grown. There's often a release from the need to impress. Clothes become simpler. Conversations grow deeper. Relationships are trimmed like bonsai trees, carefully, lovingly, until only what's essential remains. Robert once said, I don't care who remembers my name when I'm gone. I care that I made people feel safe while I was here. That, right there, is the shift. The focus turns from achievement to connection, from urgency to presence, from becoming to being. And this shift doesn't just benefit the person aging, it ripples outward. When children witness their elders finding peace, they learn to seek it earlier. When caregivers see reflection rather than retreat, they begin to ask better questions. Tell me about your first job. What was your mother like? What advice would you give your younger self? These conversations don't just preserve memory, they ignite meaning. And in the end, meaning is all we truly crave. Not awards, not possessions, meaning. To feel that your life mattered to someone. That your quiet choices echoed beyond your own front door. So if you've turned 80 or love someone who has, don't overlook this season. It is not a waiting room for death. It is the final, most poetic chapter of a book that has been writing itself since your first breath. Read it slowly. Share its pages. Let others see the underlines, the margins, the pages dog-eared with memory. Because when your time does come, it won't be the size of your bank account or your muscles, or even your memory that people speak of. It will be the way you made them feel in the last years of your life, whether you were kind, whether you listened, whether you found beauty in small things. That is the real measure of aging well. And that is the gift of turning 80, not a sentence, but a sacred stage. A call to return to yourself. To become, finally, whole. Aging is not the art of resisting change, it is the art of moving through it with grace. Turning 80 doesn't strip away your worth, it reveals it. Your value is not diminished by slower steps or softer hearing. In fact, the quieter the world gets, the more clearly your presence is felt. So whether you're 80, approaching it, or loving someone who is, remember, this chapter is not about fading. It's about illuminating what's always been there, strength, wisdom, presence, and peace. Choose to live it fully, deliberately, and honestly, because 80 is not the end. It's the beginning of the most authentic you.